Welcome to the Cheer Athlete Podcast, where we talk about movement, performance, injury prevention, and what athletes can teach us all about moving better. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Laura Turner. If you haven't met me, I am the Cheer PT. I have been a physical therapist for 35 years-ish. I was a cheerleader in college. I was a cheerleader in high school. I coached after high school and college level. And I am passionate about keeping athletes healthy and on the mat. And if you've been following for a little while, I am taking a little bit of a pivot. I've realized that I want to address how cheerleading has affected my career, number one, but also how really cheer athletes are like any athletes. They're like adults. A 60-year-old woman needs to still work the same balance work as a 18-year-old cheerleader. Now, it's different. I understand. The older generation is not going to be doing the same things that a cheerleader is going to do. But the cheerleader training actually is really important for us as we age. So I want to incorporate some more for adults, for you parents who are in my audience, and for the coaches who help give you more information on what you're doing for your athletes can also transition into adults, and why adult training can transition for kids as well. So on this week's episode, we're going to talk about what cheerleaders can teach adults about balance. And so I hope you stay listening to me. I really appreciate you being here. I'm hoping to provide you a lot of information. Still going to talk about movement. I'm still going to talk about exercise. If you have a guest that you want to come on the podcast and talk about movement, I would love to have that information. So please refer them to me or reach out directly to me, and I will reach out to them and see what we can do to get them on the show. But I'm passionate about movement. I love sitting in the clinic and watching somebody walk. I break down movement. I have learned some different techniques through the years on how to break it down differently than I learned when I was first out of school. I like to look at the pelvis and see, do we have that anterior and posterior tilt? Do we have a hike and drop? Do we have some shift and some rotation? And when people are able to get the rib cage into that, and then get the head into that, that all affects your pelvis, mimics what happens at the foot. So when we're talking about cheerleading and adults with balance problems, we need to both look at the foot and the pelvis, because the pelvis is going to mimic what happens at the foot. It's hard sometimes when you don't know the motions. It's hard to get those isolated movements down, but it's easier to do the pelvic motions than to ask your foot to do a forward, back, side to side and tilt, because it's just something that's incorporated into our everyday activity when we walk. So if your cheerleader is struggling with balance and single leg skills and control up in the air, there can be a lot of reasons that's happening. It can be because they don't have that stability in their ankle. Maybe they've had a prior ankle sprain. It could be because they don't have the control. Maybe it's because they don't have that full knee extension that allows hip extension. Sometimes when we hyperextend our knee, we actually lose the extension in our hip, and our hip's a bigger muscle. We want those glutes so there's 3 glute muscles. We want glute max, glute med, glute minimus, and your piriformis muscles and your obturator muscles. A lot of hip muscles on the outside part of your hip that pull the hip in a socket and keep us from tipping side to side. They have to work just the right timing as your quadratus lumborum and your lower back. I'm not meaning to make this an anatomy lesson, but when we look the whole chain, there's muscles on the front, the back, the side. Standing on one leg is one of the hardest things that I find in the clinic. People have a really hard time. That's one of the first tests I do. Can you stand on one leg? And they're like, where do I put my other leg? Can they pull it up? I like to see them pull it up into a lid position, because that flexes the front hip and extends the down hip. Now, I do that with all my adults. Maybe that's because of my cheer world, but that's actually how I was taught the test also. And we're looking to see, does the pelvis stay level? If the pelvis stays level and they are solid, their knee is directly underneath their hip and their knee is directly over their ankle, and they can maintain that for about 30 seconds, they're solid and good to go. Quite often what I find is that the knee is maybe caving in a little bit, or they hike their opposite hip to keep that balance. And so then we dive deeper and look and see, is it coming from the pelvis that can't move that way, or is it at the ankle? I usually go from single leg stance down to a half kneeling position. So one leg's forward, one leg's back. This tells us, is it the foot? If they get down into one knee and everything is solid and the knee is directly underneath their hip, it's likely not their hip, it's more their ankle that's creating that problem. If they're there and the knee is in and they're still hiked up on their hip, it's not their ankle, it's their hip. And so that helps to guide where we're going to strengthen. And the same thing goes for cheerleaders or adults. That's why I advocate for half kneeling positions for a lot of cheer strength programs, like kids that are coming back after an injury, or very often, even cheerleaders can do amazing things and have a lot of compensations. So even when they are doing those compensations in the air, they may actually need to do some corrective work on the ground. I 100% think for both adults and cheerleaders, it's important to get to a strength program. And strength means working 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions to build the intensity, to build the plyometrics, build the power, and progressing strength. 100% believe that's important for both cheerleaders and adults. But sometimes when they're not moving right, if you're compensating a lot, we actually have to regress that a little bit and train movement patterns so they can get to the point where they can do a single leg stance or a snatch or a clean and jerk. Those are all really crucial for cheerleaders to do. Now, in an adult world, I might not have them doing clean and jerks or overhead snatches because most of us don't have that shoulder mobility anymore. But they absolutely can be working on deadlifts and single leg squats. Those are really important and they're helpful for as we age to be able to get up from the ground or be able to pick up your grandkids or to climb stairs. So all of that's really important. And the training that you have as a cheerleader will transition into adulthoods. And as an adult, it's good to work those same exercises. A cheerleader is going to probably work more in the explosive power because that's specifics for getting overhead and all that. Whereas we might break it down and not do as much, or we may modify. So we go back to that half kneeling position and looking to see, can we balance on that one knee? Do we have that solid? If they can't, then we need to regress it a little bit more and do things on the ground. And it's frustrating, I know, for kids especially. They want to be doing the fancy and the pretty exercises that are really high intensity, but they have to be able to control that to get there. It's building blocks. And the same thing goes for an adult. So you've got to build up your foundation and get your bases solid, get your base drills solid, and then build on from there. How else is balance, an important thing to look at for cheerleaders and adults? A cheerleader is going to be wobbly. They need their balance to land their jumps. They need the balance to land their tumbling. A flyer needs extra balance to be able to pull a single leg stunt and to do double leg stunts also. As an adult, our single leg exercises or our single leg activities might just be climbing stairs. I'm not that tall in real life. You probably guessed that. If I have to get something on top shelf, I have to step up on a chair. My training, my step, lock, and tighten, it goes through my head every single time I climb on chair. Step, lock, and tighten. And I frequently use step up exercises to help from my own strength to make sure I'm getting that full hip extension. And that helps my balance also. I hope it's going to help in the long term. I've got a long ways to go, so I've got to train now so that I can continue to do well for the long haul. I think it's important to remember when we're looking at movement patterns, the ankle moves forward, back, side to side, and rotates. The knee moves forward, back, side to side, minimal rotation. The hip, forward, back, side to side, and rotation. So when we're training, we want to improve the balance from a physical point. Core is certainly going to play into that as well. But for the core, the hip, the knee, we want to make sure that we are training in all 3 planes of motion. We are challenging our body to walk on uneven surfaces or to stand on uneven surfaces. Summer's coming up. I want to go at the beach. I have a lake house in New York and I walk the beach. I can't walk the beach until the fall because the water is too high, but I want to be able to walk, and we have rickety stairs and I want to be able to walk on them. And all of the training I had as a cheerleader is helping to carry over into that because I've had that mobility. I myself could use a little work to create better ankle mobility that will give me better feedback up the chain. That's why I think it's important to do some of these exercises. So Start now. If you're a coach or a mom that's working with your kids on helping them to get stronger, think about movement in three planes of motion: three forward, back, side to side, and rotation. Think about how the foot and the big toe connects all the way up to your head. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been posting about fascial connections this week, and I've been posting about pain and how pain is a signal that something's going on, but it's not necessarily that something's wrong or that there's an injury. We just have to be aware of that. And that when somebody presents with knee pain, it's probably not the knee that's causing the problem. I worked with a kid today who's came to me just for knee pain. He's got bilateral, so both sides knee pain, and it's not coming from his knees. His knees are fine. He's got ankle mobility issues that have been longstanding, and he's got hip mobility issues that probably were there from birth. But he needs to improve that motion even just a little bit, because we're not going to crank on his motion. He's older now, and we're not going to force motion. We're going to do repetitive motion to create better movement in the hips and the ankles and create stability in the knees. His knee pain is there, but the problem is not in the knees, the problem's in his hips. So looking at that whole connection, working on those three planes of motion, challenging and giving other feedback. The other thing I think that gets missing as an adult is we stuff our feet in shoes. It's a beautiful time of year right now. It's sunny out today. It's starting to get warm. You're going to be at the beach. Let your kids walk outside on the grass. You should walk outside on the grass barefoot. Let your feet experience that and get that sensory awareness. Now, don't step on sharp rocks. Watch out for glass, all of that stuff. Obviously, keep it safe. But the feedback you get from the different surfaces and from dirt and sand, if you ever walked on your grass where there's dirt and you walked on the beach where there's sand, that should feel different. Well, all that gives sensory feedback into the bottom of your feet to send signals up to your brain to tell it where you are in space. And then your vestibular system and your sensory system processes that through your spinal cord and your brain and sends signals back out to say, whoa, I'm on an uneven surface and I need to course correct. Or, hey, this is good. And we just have to get a little motion through the feet and keep that feedback. I think one of the biggest problems we do as we age is start wearing shoes all the time and never let our feet create a sensory environment. So that if you want your cheerleaders to be better up in the air, give them some sensory feedback on the ground, standing barefoot. Underneath my desk here, I have a tray of rocks that some of them are glued on, but some of them aren't. And I rest my feet on them, and that gives some different feedback. Some of them are bumpy. It's a different awareness, and it creates sensation, which helps to create better stability when we are moving and walking and standing on foot. All of that helps with the feedback for balance. So hopefully, as you can see, these things aren't just important for cheerleaders, they're important for all of us. If we're going to work on improving our balance as we age, we need to work on mobility of our ankles, our hips, and we need to work on and maybe our upper back and some rotational mobility. We need to work on the three planes of movement. We need to strengthen and stabilize at our knees and our hips. And we need to work on our core. And we need to do these in different planes of motion. And we need to work on sensory feedback through walking on uneven surfaces, walking on soft surfaces, walking on rocks, and allowing ourselves to feel and get that feedback in so our brain knows how to adapt. And when we can include all of these and we can look at the body moving in a different plane, it'll help us feel better, move better, and perform better overall. I hope that's helpful. I really appreciate you listening. And if there's a topic that you'd like to talk about on how cheerleading can help adults and what movement patterns, I'm really going to go forward more into the movement patterns and how the body is connected and why it's important to train all of this going forward. So if you have anything that you'd like to learn about, please reach out and send me a message. And I look forward to you coming back next week and continuing to learn and to grow. And I really appreciate listening to me for all this time. If this is helpful, please share it with somebody. And if you haven't hit subscribe, please do that and leave a review, because I would love the feedback to know how I can make this better. There'll be some changes. My intro's already changed a little bit, and I'm just going to work on making that better when life happens and I have the time to do that. I'm just like you and running all over the place, and taking care of parents and whatnot. And so bear with me as we go forward, but I hope to make this even better and educational and fun and enjoyable in the same process. I hope you have a great weekend and a great week ahead. I'm going to still end the same way because this is really important. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe out. Too many of us hold our breath and we just hang on to that tension. Take life one step at a time. You can't change tomorrow, can't change yesterday. All you got is right now. You can do anything you put your mind to. My mom taught me that when I was young, and it stays in my head today. Sometimes I have to remind myself. And as my friend Drew Kelleher said, you're responsible for your own vibes. You can come at this being grumpy, you can come at this being miserable, or you can come at this and switch your vibe and make it a good one. I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you next week.